Greetings, friends, and welcome to another exciting build. Today, we are going to turn my lovely Home Depot bucket here into a pirate mortar. So right off the bat, you will find this template in the link below. It will lead to my website where you can go download this. We are going to be breaking this into two videos like I did in my original cannon. First thing we're going to start with is the actual cannon itself, of which, of course, that is the core of it. So let's get into it and we'll talk about how everything gets done. Now, we make sure that the paint is going to stick to our barrel before we get all of our styrofoam pieces on it. So you want to do some light sanding on this. I'm going to let my assistant here explain what you need to do.
Before we get too far, you will have to lightly sand it down with the 240 grit sandpaper.
And that will allow the paint to stick nicely to this and get a nice finish, ready to take caulking and everything else we do with this cannon. Thank you, assistant. Now, we're going to get right into doing all of the circles that we need for this. So you can see we've got some 1 inches, some 4 inches, and some more 1 inches here. The back is a bit easier because this is just a 4-inch. We're going to have some minor problems, not really minor, but they're just a pain in the butt. This circle here has to have a secondary punch out of it. So I'll show you it here. This is the front circle, which is 14 and 8 as per the drawing. Now this one here, this one is really tight and I can't give you a measurement on it because this circle bumps up right against here and right against the 4-inch circle that sits above it. So when you go to do this, this is tough. What I did is I measured the top ring and then I minused with a ruler this distance off to get how much I actually needed to get to this circle. We're going to find out when I go put it on. You have a little bit of wiggle room, but once you make this cut, adjusting this circle size is a nightmare because you literally have to perfectly remove the same amount of material around the whole thing. So how would we do these circles? With my handy dandy template drawer here. Up here, you'll find the video linked that shows you how to make this quick little radius ruler. And it's as simple as finding your measurement. So say this is 7 inches. Well, this is 14 inches, so our radius is going to be 7 inches. And then using your handy dandy circle template drawer, you find your 7, which is going to be hard on the camera, and you just draw your circle. And just like that, you have your radius. Now, I'm going to be doing a second circle out of this, which is going to be 12 inches to make room for, so it sits over this rim here, very straightforward. And once again, draw away, and you're done. So once you've got this, this is where, depending on what you have access to, you can cut this out with a coping saw. This is 4-inch styrofoam, so this is a bit of a grind to carve. If you have a good hot knife or a good hot wire cutter, this would be amazing with this. I'm going to be using my bandsaw because this is just thick styrofoam. Now, if you're doing this out of laminated 2-inch styrofoam, it's a lot easier because you'll just draw 2 circles and cut each one independently and just stick them together. You might end up with some slight deviations, but it's all workable once you get into it. So anyways, you're going to go through and you're going to do all of the circles that you need using this template. The 4-inch, like I said, the drawing tells you what you need in terms of what has to go where. Anyways, I'm going to go start cutting these out and we'll talk after. Now, we need to get this lovely pipe here as our cross member through this bucket. Now, when we do this, we're going to get it close, but you might have to take a Dremel after to get it right because the curvature of the barrel changes the amount of size that you need for the hole going through. So what I'll do is there'll be a template with this circle for this specific pipe. If you use a different pipe, what I do is I do a masking tape circle. I put the pipe right down onto and trace around it, and that allows me to stick it directly to my barrel and then just use a pen to go around it. Now, to make sure we hit the same point on both sides, this bucket is tapered, so it adds a whole extra level of difficulty. So what I have done is I used some masking tape. I put it right across here, wrapped it right around 360 degrees to come back to here again. And then using a knife, I cut right through it. So you have a piece of masking tape at that point that's exact to the circumference of it. Take it off, fold it in half, because then you end up with exactly halfway mark. And then marking 3 inches up from the bottom, I tape this on, run it around to the other side. The tape will end up somewhere, not to that end. The tape will end up something like that. Just draw another line and you're done. Then measure 3 inches up from the bottom to get your cross member or your cross, and then that'll get your exact hole that should be parallel to the one on the other side. Now, how you go about cutting this out is up to you. This is pretty thick plastic. I'm going to be using a little reciprocating saw and a knife and a whole lot of whatever the heck I feel like to get this hole punched out of here. I think you could possibly use a jigsaw as well. Who knows? Yeah, you do you. Anyways, see you in a few. Oh, what a tangled mess we make. Look at that table. Good gosh. Anyways, so right off the bat, you'll see that our lovely 5-gallon bucket has changed just a little bit. I put a base coat of black on the inside because you will see this, and I can touch it up later. And you have the option of putting in a secondary pipe to make this look like the barrel, but I'm just going to paint it black, put the thing over top, because doing that extra step, and I say that now, and watch, I'll do something by the time I get to the end. Now at the bottom, you can see that my holes are now cut in, and what I found that the best tool was my little oscillating saw, and then I used a fixed blade knife to clean it up. And you see, it doesn't have to be super clean. We're going to be doing a whole bunch of caulking on this, but this is now ready to take the pipe. Now, this is a 4-inch sewer pipe. I believe the outside radius is 2.12, and that is what this whole thing is set up to be. So once it's all done, that's going to slip through, and we're going to even it up perfectly. But this has to go in early. Look at this. It's hard to do this with one hand. That has to go in early to make sure everything sits right on it. Now, I'm going to get that into place, but I'm going to quickly go over all of the circles and how they all ended up here. So this is the this is the 12-inch circle, which actually came out of the center of this one. This is the back of the cannon. This is the front of the cannon. Just saves you having to cut circles and, you know, having that piece of styrofoam become useless. This here is the lower rim. This thing looks ugly because it kind of is a bit of an ugly piece of styrofoam. But what I found was neat is when I put this thing on, this ring was too big. So I just put it on, marked it, and then using the hot knife, I cut through, and this ended up sizing perfectly to go onto the bottom up here underneath this ring. This is the very front ring of the whole cannon. So this will go here, not there. Anyways, this will be the front ring that sits on the top of the bucket. Now you can see I have routed here, routed both sides on this one, and routed both sides on this one. If you want to do little to no routing or tons of routing, it's 100% up to you. But I'm going to start getting this stuff assembled because everything has to kind of go together before I seal it so I can paint it. Now, when you're putting this stuff together, like here, I'm going to be putting screws through here to hold that top ring on to give me a fixed position. If not, this whole thing can float. Everything else is going to be glued to it, so I need something to hold it on pretty strongly. And then this bottom ring, which is actually right there, I'm going to put a screw in from the top, probably 2 or 3, just to hold it down so that doesn't go anywhere. Once I have the caulking on it, it'll do even better. But until that point, this is what I have to do. That's interesting. Anyways, so I'm going to go from here now, and yeah, we'll take it from there. See you in a few. All right, we're a little bit further along. Number one, when you go to do this part here, after you sand it, hit it with some acetone before you get it all assembled, like somebody may or may not have done. I was worried about the paint bonding. You can see here I was testing it, and it kept on scratching off, so I'm like, I need to prep that plastic a little bit more. Now, the next step we're going to be doing is you're going to take some 1/4-inch EVA foam, and then you're going to, round off one side. I just use a sander. I use my spindle sander, or you can use your Dremel or your rotary sander to knock that edge down nice and rounded so it looks good. That one actually could have had a bit more, but it'll look good anyways. Then, starting at the one side, you're going to put this down with the contact cement, starting at the bottom so you don't see the seam. Wrap it all the way around, come back over, overlap, and then using a sharp knife, cut about like maybe 1 millimeter past where the point of the cut is, and then you force it into place. And what it does is it just seals that up beautifully. Regardless, this is a 1-inch band, and this is a 3/4 inch band. There's a 2-inch band that's got to go here, and a 2-inch band that has to go here, with another 1-inch band that goes on top of it. Now, contact cement will eat through styrofoam, so we can't do that one just yet. I'm going to go make up some mixture of some caulking and some water, and I'll describe on how we seal the styrofoam. Speaking of sealing the styrofoam, I used a heat gun at this stage to seal all the styrofoam and go from a rough surface to a more polished surface. Now, you'll notice that I've got striations in my styrofoam. I really like how that looks on the final version after I printed it, or not printed it, good gosh. After I painted it, I really like how those striations end up looking. It gives it a quality that looks just that little bit rough, like it came out of a forge. I really like how it looks. So if you see it, that's why it's there. But I have to give myself complete points. Look at those striations on that 1-inch and that 4-inch. Are almost perfect, yet they came out of 2 pieces of styrofoam. That just is uncanny. Regardless, I'm going to continue on here. Next time you see me, I'll have these bands in place, and we'll be back to talk about the acrylic caulking on here. See you in a few. As you can see, all of the EVA foam trim is on now and glued down. And what I do is I make a mix of acrylic latex caulk and water to the consistency of, like, not quite glue, but a little bit less, and then I just paint it on. And what it does is it seals the styrofoam beautifully. It's got to be careful because that's still drying. And what it does is it makes sure that when I put the contact cement on here, it didn't melt through my styrofoam. I'm going to be putting on a second coat just to make sure that it's protected, because when I spray paint this, I don't want this to go and get ruined. Using this pipe, you'll want to build 2 EVA foam caps that go onto here, and then just once again silicone or caulk around them to make sure they look good. 1/4 inch or even the 1/2 inch EVA foam will work here. Now, as a quick thing, this is just a 10-inch bowl from the dollar store. You can pick whichever style you want. Doesn't even have to be 10 inches. It could be 11 inches. You just want to make sure it fits within the radius of this bottom circle. Now, I'm just going to grab this and flip it vertical. Okay, so now we will be on to the top. And here's our top ring. I went and found a 4.4 gallon honey bucket. Well, this is what it was. It was a honey bucket. And believe it or not, it fit the hole that I cut almost perfectly. So I stuck it in there. Now that becomes the blackout for the barrel. You can do whatever you want there, but that's what I did, just to make it look so you can't look way down inside and see all the workings. And sadly, because of this pipe is right through, you'll never be able to go full depth with the barrel. It's just the nature of the beast on this. So anyways, I'm going to go now, use some glue this on, then I'm going to go caulk all around every single gap, which you can see I've already done, which takes absolutely forever. And it's amazing how much you go through to get this all done. Same with here. This is all caulked in just to give it all a beautifully smooth finish before we start getting to painting. Anyways, I'm going to go get this stuck down, and then hopefully the painting will go as easy as before. And before I forget, because I am daft and I realized this literally falling asleep last night, when you're doing these circles, when you're going to go do the inside, how do you get it so you can cut the inside? What I did is you take an X-Acto knife and you score across the top, and then with a hard hit, you break it in half, and that'll give you access to the inside. And since the break is so clean, you can just glue it back together. And all I did is I used a little bit of tape on each joint just to make sure that it was strong enough that when I put it back together and the pressure from the bowl, the bucket isn't going to split it apart again. As you can see here, there's your line. It's barely visible and it looks pretty good. Anyways, just wanted to give that heads up before I forget. The cannon is all finished and painted. Right off the bat, I used this oil rub bronze by Rust-Oleum Universal. Amazing paint, even though this is running like $22 a can in Canada right now. And once it's all painted, I went through with just silver acrylic and dry brushed the raised edges. You can't see it very clearly, but it adds such a character to the actual, cannon barrel that I really like how it appears. Then once you've got all of that all dry brushed up, I did 2 coats of this diamond wood finish. I've got some other ideas, and in a later video I'm going to try approaching with this because I think there's a better option than this. Anyways, I went through. It ends up giving it a really nice hard coat on it, and it's a beautiful cannon barrel now. Regardless, next video I'm going to be building the base, and we're going to have our mortar to be accompanying the big old cannon. Anyways, thanks so much for hanging out, everyone. A big thanks to my Patreon, my patrons, my subscribers, and all my viewers. You guys are awesome. It would be great if you could like and subscribe the videos. If you do, that'd be awesome. I usually don't ask, but it helps a lot in getting my name out there and getting me that extra bit. So $22 bottles of paint don't eat out of my budget so quickly. Regardless, thanks so much for hanging out, and I'll see you on the next one. Have a good one, all.